it's Real American Brian. Welcome back. If you've been here before, you've seen a lot of the Real American Hero flip-through review videos I've done through my awesome custom binds here. And for a long time now, I've wanted to branch off into other G.I. Joe comic books and do similar videos on them. And I'm finally doing that. As a part of Cobra Convergence 7, I'm going to be going through Storm Shadow from Devil's Due. I can't wait to get into it. I hope you will join me. Let's get down to the tabletop and take a closer look at this book.
Yo, Joe. Talking comics, here's your host. It's A Real American Brian.
There are enough comics about Snake Eyes. Let's dive into a story about Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow was a series that was created at Devil's Due and featured the writing of Larry Hama returning to a G.I. Joe book again. This one would be quite a bit different though. It wouldn't feature the G.I. Joe cast that we have grown used to, but instead would be a narrow spotlight on Storm Shadow and some new characters. This series would introduce some things that would later come up again in the IDW Real American Hero books. Pale Peony, Demon Granny, and Morning Light are all first mentioned in these books. Morning Light would also go on to be referenced in the G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes movie. Unfortunately, this title only lasted 7 issues. It was canceled when Devil's Due lost the license to G.I. Joe Comics. It's really unfortunate. I think there were a lot more stories that could be told. I'll be doing a separate video for each issue and do the normal flip-through review style that I've been doing on the Real American Hero books. All 7 videos will be coming out in July and be part of the Cobra Convergence 7. Please follow the link below to look at all the other contributors to Cobra Convergence 7 and see all the great G.I. Joe content that's being created. But that is a lot of info to dump on you, but I think it's time to dive into issue number 1. Friend and Enemy, Hero and Villain, Criminal and Victim. Over the years, the life of Thomas Arashikage, aka Storm Shadow, has been one of extremes. Torn between tragedy and triumph, and inexorably trapped in the middle of the war between G.I. Joe and Cobra. Now, however, the scales are balanced. The man is free of all ties and is on his own, able to finally search for his own path. For this soldier turned ninja, it seems his path is ever destined to lead to trouble. We open with Storm Shadow being held by several men with tasers pointed at him. We see Margarita is in charge of the men and is holding a child, Tiffany. Margarita wants information on Morning Light from Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow gets in a little joke about pork chop sandwiches before telling Margarita if she lets Tiffany go, he will make sure she dies with very little pain. The men fire their tasers at Storm Shadow, but the ninja is able to dodge out of the way with ease. Margarita takes off with Tiff, ordering the men to take care of Storm Shadow but leave him alive so they can get information from him. It is revealed that this is all happening inside a U-boat inside the Science and Industry Museum in Chicago. Elsewhere, in a bowling alley, Jilf is talking to his client, a heavyset man with a blonde ponytail. Jilf was hired to get Morning Light and is now reporting to his client that they have failed, but they have the girl Tiffany and are planning to get information from her. The client informs Jilf that he doesn't care how it is done, he just wants Morning Light. Somewhere else in the city, Margarita has Tiff in a small apartment. She calls the Night Creeper leader to report in. The Night Creeper leader lets her know that the client isn't happy, and he wants Morning Light or some information that will lead to it. Margarita gets information that Storm Shadow disappeared from the locked cell in jail. She ponders why he would let himself get captured if he could escape so easily. Tiff is reading an issue of G.I. Joe Sigma 6. While Margarita is informed that the computer records in the police department were also erased, they were able to find out that Storm Shadow's name is Tommy and he was born on June 6th, but no other information was left. Storm Shadow pays a visit to Adam, a computer hacker who used to live in Springfield and was an assistant to Dr. Venom. Adam gathers some information on the people that attacked Storm Shadow in the museum and finds that Margarita has a more famous name, Pale Peony, and the men were former Night Creepers working for the leader of the Night Creepers, and all are tied to a new organization. Storm Shadow hits the streets looking for information on Pale Peony and where Tiff may be. Crystal Ball and the Night Creeper leader are discussing how difficult it is to bring Storm Shadow in, but they have the girl and are bringing her to Zurich to get the information they need on Morning Light from her. Pale Peony is trying to get information out of Tiff, who isn't giving her much, but does mention that Storm Shadow is her uncle. Pale Peony gets word that Storm Shadow is tearing up Chicago looking for her. It is revealed that Pale Peony and Tiff are in a container and it is picked up. The original destination of Zurich is compromised and they will be going to a new location. Storm Shadow finds Magic Mo and uses several ninja tricks to get him to give up the information on Pale Peony, who he is looking for. He has poisoned Magic Mo without him realizing it. The Pale Peony cargo container lands in Toronto. Crystal Ball and the Night Creeper leader get word that the package is leaving Pearson. They want to get it to the client and let him handle it. The client reveals he has a lot more information on the IRIZ than they expected. He just wants morning light. It is the key to everything. The client continues revealing what he knows. He knows that Pale Peony is working with someone else as well, but they are on the way to him. He also knows that Storm Shadow is following them. All of the pieces are coming together for the end game. That is the first issue of Storm Shadow. This book has a much different tone than the other G.I. Joe books that Larry Hama has written, and I really dig the mysterious nature of the story and how we find out small bits of information along the way. Please, if you have made it this far, like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video where we will get into issue 2 of the series. That video should be coming along in just a few days. And while you're waiting, check out some of the other great content on Cobra Convergence 7 and all the other contributors that are contributing G.I. Joe content to it. But that is it for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you around.
That was a real American Brian. And now you know, because knowing is half the Brian.